The question of the swords is one of those very odd passages towards the end of Luke's gospel at the Last Supper. Jesus says, when I sent you out before, did you lack anything? And they said no. And he says, now you're going to have to be careful and get yourself a sword because you may need it. Um, Many people think that that was meant metaphorically, and indeed, just a matter of hours or minutes later, when Jesus and his followers were in the Garden of Gethsemane and the people came to arrest Jesus, one of Jesus' followers, pretty certainly Peter, drew his sword and lashed out and cut off the ear of the high priest's servant. Somebody pointed out this probably means he was swinging his sword like that sideways, trying to cut off somebody's head, and the guy ducked at the last minute and it just caught his ear. That seems to be the most likely explanation. And Jesus says, all who take the sword will perish by the sword. He says, just don't do that. We're not doing it that way. It looks as though that strange saying about the swords is either metaphorical or at least is a way of saying you're going to be very vulnerable, very at risk. You may want to protect your families, whatever, something like that. He's certainly not saying, and this would falsify the whole message of Jesus, he's certainly not saying that the gospel which he came to announce, the kingdom of God on earth as in heaven, would be advanced through violence. It might be, and Jesus after all recognized the authority of Pontius Pilate over him in John chapter 19, it might be a way of saying we need to stay safe in this world. That's quite difficult to understand what that would be. When it comes to the book of Revelation, what we have there is picking up from various Old Testament images about the Messiah coming and smiting the nations with a rod of iron or with the sword of his mouth, which is a way of saying that his teaching, his announcement of God's kingdom is the thing that will bring justice and rule to the nations. And in the ancient world, the natural symbol for that is a sword. And the book of Revelation, as I'm sure most viewers and listeners will know, is full of the most glorious apocalyptic imagery, which doesn't fit together into an easy picture and certainly isn't to be taken literally. I have on my windowsill over, you can't see it here, a wonderful carving of the lion who is also the lamb. So we have a lamb lying down in front of the lion. And in Revelation chapter 5, we are told that we are going to see the lion, but in fact we see a lamb. You can't picture a lion and a lamb together except by having two animals, but in the image it's one and the same. It's the same with so many of the other things going on in Revelation, and particularly things like the sword of the mouth and so on. This is to do with the teaching of Jesus, the teaching which says it's time for God to become king, and the pagan gods and goddesses that have ruled this world are at last going to be put in their place and will be able to destroy and corrupt human life no more. So many mysteries going on under the whole idea of the sword, but that's where I would start.